All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, great to be back.
You know how we do things around here. We take something interesting and timely and
we unpack it.
we unpack it exactly.
Break it down.
Yeah, for you to make sure you have all the knowledge you need to make some smart decisions.
That's right.
So today we are looking at the Egyptian economy, kind of some recent trends in the market.
Exactly.
And we are going to be looking at a recent episode of the podcast Ticks and Picks.
Great podcast, by the way.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, if you want to keep up with what's going on in the Egyptian stock market,
Definitely recommend it.
can't recommend it enough.
But we're going to take their recent episode and kind of pull out some of the key takeaways.
Absolutely.
And we want to sort of put this in the context of what's happening globally, too.
Exactly.
So you have a picture of what's happening in Egypt and how it relates to the rest of the world.
Yep. So in the U.S., for example, you've got consumer spending that's up,
Okay.
but inflation is still a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it's been really sticky.
Yeah, really sticky.
Over in the UAE, foreign investment is booming.
Yeah, absolutely pouring in.
So let's see where that leaves Egypt.
Yeah.
So Ticks and Picks mentioned that inflation in Egypt actually slowed down a little bit last month,
It did.
which sounds like good news to me. It hit 25.5% in November.
Yeah, that's right. And it is good news. It means that prices aren't rising as quickly as they were before.
Okay.
But the central bank is keeping a close eye on things.
Yeah.
They actually decided to keep interest rates steady for now.
Okay, why is that?
Well, they're trying to control inflation,
Right.
but they also have to manage the government's debt load.
Ah, okay.
And rising interest rates in the U.S. complicate things.
How so?
Well, because when interest rates are higher in the U.S.,
Yeah.
it can make Egypt less attractive to foreign investors who are looking for the highest returns.
Interesting. Okay, so let's move on from the overall economy and look at some individual companies.
Sounds good.
So Ticks and Picks talked about the Talat Mustafa Group, which is a huge real estate company here in Egypt.
Yeah, everyone knows TMG.
Yeah, and they said that TMG hit record sales figures this year.
They did EGP 500 billion.
Whoa, 500 billion.
That's right, 500 billion.
So what does that tell us about the real estate sector in Egypt?
Well, it tells us it's booming.
Okay.
There's a lot of demand from both local and foreign buyers.
Yeah, makes sense.
The government is also trying to boost the sector.
Uh-huh.
And let's be honest, in times of economic uncertainty,
Yeah,
people often see real estate as a safe haven.
true. That's always been the case.
It's a tangible asset. You can see it. You can touch it.
Exactly.
It's not just numbers on a screen.
Now, Ticks and Picks also mentioned Beltone Holding,
Yeah.
which is a big investment bank here. And they said that Beltone is planning to increase its capital
That's right.
to help them expand.
Yep.
What does that tell you as an expert?
That move signals a lot of confidence
Sure.
from investors. They're basically betting on growth.
Makes sense.
Not just for Beltone itself, but for the sectors that Beltone invests in.
Mm-hmm.
It tells me that people believe in Egypt's long-term economic potential.
And that leads into the next thing that Ticks and Picks talked about, which is the fact that Telecom Egypt
Yeah.
has partnered with China Mobile
Big news.
to boost digital services.
It is.
And it feels like to me like Egypt is really kind of entering this digital boom.
It is 100%.
So what kinds of opportunities does that open up for, the average person here?
Well, more and more people are going online.
Sure.
Mobile technology is getting cheaper and more accessible.
Yeah.
And there's a growing need for digital infrastructure.
Huh.
So if you're entrepreneurial,
Right.
there are definitely opportunities in this space.
Now let's look at the stock market.
Okay.
Ticks and Picks mentioned that the main index, the EGX 30,
Yep.
ended the week down at 29,958 points.
Yeah, slight dip.
And the EGX 70, which tracks smaller companies, also dipped to close at 8,190.
That's right.
Now, I don't speak stock market very well, so can you translate those numbers for us?
Sure thing. Those indexes basically reflect how optimistic or pessimistic investors are feeling.
Okay.
So a dip doesn't necessarily mean everyone's panicking,
Right.
but it does suggest some caution.
Huh.
The key thing to watch are the support and resistance levels.
What does that mean?
Think of it like a channel that the price is moving within for the EGX 30.
Yeah.
The support level is around 29,600,
Okay.
and the resistance level is around 30,200.
Gotcha.
So if the index breaks below 29,600,
Yeah.
it could signal further decline.
Okay.
But if it breaks above 30,200,
Uh-huh.
that might mean it's headed upwards.
Gotcha. So kind of watch those boundaries.
Exactly the same goes for the EGX 70. watch out for 8,112 on the low end and 8,520 on the high end.
So in the middle of all this market movement, Ticks and Picks pointed out that gold prices
Yes.
have been relatively stable,
They have,
both globally and here in Egypt.
globally and locally.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, gold is often seen as a safe haven asset.
Uh-huh.
In times of economic uncertainty,
Okay.
investors often flock to it,
Yeah.
which helps to keep the price steady.
Makes sense.
So the fact that it's holding its ground right now suggests a wait-and-see attitude.
Okay.
Everyone's watching to see what the central bank does next.
Right, because they haven't announced when the next interest rate decision will be right.
Exactly. Everyone's waiting to see how the central bank's moves might affect inflation.
Okay, so just to recap quickly, we've got inflation cooling down a little bit,
That's right.
but some potential concerns about foreign investment,
Yes,
a red-hot real estate market,
absolutely.
some interesting developments with different companies.
And a stock market that's kind of sending mixed signals.
It is a bit volatile,
And through it all, gold is steady.
reliable as ever.
Now, of course, this is just a snapshot of what's happening in the economy.
It's a complex picture.
It really is. What we've shared are insights, not financial advice.
That's important to remember.
So always do your own research.
Yes.
Stay informed
Yes.
before you make any decisions.
Then here's a final thought for you.
Okay.
Think about what unique opportunities or challenges you see emerging in the Egyptian market.
Okay.
What might Ticks and Picks have missed?
Yeah, good question.
Stay curious, be engaged, and happy investing.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.